The wonderful thing about problems, the wonderful thing about issues, and perhaps their function in life, is that issues tend to focus our attention on areas that require our attention. They've a great way of cutting through all the mire and saying, hands up, you need to handle something here. There's a problem. It needs to be sorted. And if you can sort it and sort it quickly and sort it effectively, well then you can actually increase your speed towards your end goal. If you don't, it'll be like a dead weight that'll drag you along and ultimately slow down the process. Hello there and welcome to another Coffee with Colin, and thanks for tuning in. This week I want to talk about dealing with issues. In his book, Losing My Virginity, Sir Richard Branson talks about one incident with Virgin Atlantic where a frequent business class flyer had an issue. Her electronic wheelchair was damaged and she was not very well treated, it would appear, and therefore she said, that's it, never flying Virgin again, I'm taking all my business to British Airways. Now that didn't help because British Airways was Virgin's nemesis. So anyway, word got back to Sir Richard, and what did he do? Well, he picked up the phone to her. Now can you imagine that? You're sitting at home some evening and the phone rings. Hello, who's speaking? It's Richard Branson. I've no idea how she felt, but I'm quite sure I'd be a bit rattled and perhaps in awe, a bit starstruck perhaps. Anyway, Richard Branson decided to pick up the phone. He apologised for what happened, apologised for the personnel not handling it properly, understood entirely that she wouldn't fly with Virgin again, but that wasn't the issue. He simply wanted the relationship to end on a good note. And as they were speaking, he said that there was a motorcycle courier en route to her with a brochure of electronic wheelchairs, and if she would kindly choose one, Virgin Atlantic would purchase it and have it delivered to her home in the coming days. Now, that is dealing with an issue, for sure. Can't remember whether that lady became a Virgin Atlantic client again or not. I expect she probably did. But just in case you think that the only issues you're going to have in your business journey are to do with clients, well, the answer to that is no. You're going to have all sorts of issues. There could be spousal issues, and there could be health issues, there could be finance issues, there could be inter-staff personality spats, there could be lawsuits, there could be product deficiencies, you'll be let down by people. There's going to be all sorts of stuff. The issue here is that issues, unresolved issues, issues that are not handled, can be like cancerous cells in the body. They need to be handled. They can't be just brushed under the carpet and, that'll never raise its head again, because there is a tendency for issues that get brushed under the carpet to actually raise their heads at a point in the future, and when they raise their heads they tend to be uglier. My dad, Tommy O'Brien, always says that if there's an issue in a relationship in particular, if there's a problem, the relationship can only go one of two ways. It can only ever get better because it's handled properly, or can deteriorate because it was handled badly. So if there's a problem, the relationship can never remain the same. It can only either get better or it can disimprove, and that's entirely based on how you or I handle the issue. The wonderful thing about problems, the wonderful thing about issues, and perhaps their function in life, is that issues tend to focus our attention on areas that require our attention. They've a great way of cutting through all the mire and saying, hands up, you need to handle something here. There's a problem. It needs to be sorted. And if you can sort it and sort it quickly and sort it effectively, well then you can actually increase your speed towards your end goal. If you don't, it'll be like a dead weight that'll drag you along and ultimately slow down the process. I remember when we had the cafe business all those years ago, we used to use, and you'll be familiar with this as a customer of cafes, you often see these comment cards, and the comment cards, you fill them in and say, I was very happy today with the service, with the product, with the quality, etc. Truthfully, the ones that told us we were great day in, day out didn't add any value. They're just, as I say in my book, frankly, a waste of good trees. The ones that added most value are the ones that said, today your cafe sucked at blah, 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 and it pointed to a problem. Because that, there's no lessons in succeeding. The lessons come from failing. So if we let the customer down in some shape or form, they put it on a comment card, we at least would, our attention would be pointed to something that might need addressing. And then a final word of caution here. Just because, and I'll use the analogy of the comment card again, just because the comment cards might have said, you're great, 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 the chips are cold, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great, you're great, does not necessarily mean that we have a problem with our chips. However, if your chips are cold, your chips are cold, your chips are cold, your chips are cold is a recurring comment, well then we've got a problem and we need to handle it. So try and take a step back from issues once they arise to see, are they one-offs, and might they just be something that happened on the day, might they just be to do with somebody's mood, or in fact is there an underlying problem. Certainly if a problem, an issue raises its head more than once, it deserves your attention. When we come back next week for another Coffee with Colm, and we'll take another snippet, another part of the journey, another few lessons that I've learned along the way to give me these grey hairs and these wrinkles, and let's share a coffee together and see where it leads. But in the meantime, have a great week. And make sure you get some great coffee too.